Hi peeps, it's Tersse back on the old squat box once again, and this is just an addendum to the video I put up about the NSA when I rambled on a whole load of shit about all kinds of fucking crap. But this is more pertinent. I mean, people are scared that they're going to be catching all this metadata and they're going to be keeping it in this big gigantic tank of metadata, and at any time they can just have your phone number and just dip in there, check your phone number, find out all the phone calls you made and all that, and read all your emails and yeah, well that's pretty much true, but you know what, there might be a benefit to that. It might not all be a downside. There could be a benefit to that. Say for instance we put in regulations there where if you ever got arrested for anything, you know what I mean, your lawyer would have the right to access that gigantic tank of metadata to find out where you were at a certain time. Perhaps you had called someone close to the time of the supposed criminal act you were arrested for. Maybe your lawyer could have the right with your signature on a bit of paper to access that database, check your phone, perhaps even find out what phone towers your signal had been picked up on, pinpointing your position at a certain time of day, perhaps proving that you couldn't have been somewhere else committing the crime, or something similar, a bit like the database of DNA, which most police keep, you know what I mean. I know they're supposed to throw it away after 24 hours or 48 hours or something, but they don't. They've got a huge gigantic database, and we know they've got a giant database because some people in prison for murder have been released as innocent because their DNA was proven not to have been at the scene of the crime, and things like that. So if the DNA database, which everybody says they shouldn't be keeping, you know what I mean, if that's sort of like something we want to get rid of, keeping all this DNA hanging about, we should destroy it, get rid of it, you shouldn't maybe keep it, but it works out, there's actually a benefit to having a DNA database, Also, catching criminals years and years after they've thought they got away with their crime because they get picked up on something else, their DNA is taken and checked, and yeah, we solve some crimes that way. So this is what this database is going to be used for as well, I think, in the future. It will be used for catching criminals who thought they got away with it, through tracking them through their information, on the superhighway and through the telecommunication network. And I think in the future it will eventually come round that the regulations will be lax enough for you to be able to sign a bit of paper and give your lawyer access to utilise your email addresses, the emails you've sent, telephone calls you've made, and perhaps prove that you're innocent of the charges you're actually in jail for. So I think that there is a benefit to it as well as a downside. Like all technology, it's not all good and it's not all bad. It's how we use it. It's how we regulate it. It's how it's how we control the possible abuses of such systems. That's really where we come into being intelligent animals rather than dumb, stupid fucks, you know what I mean? We shouldn't just hate new things, We've also got to try and compare new things to old things and see if perhaps this new thing can be used in, a beneficial way that's similar to some of the older things we've used, you know what I mean? Some of the older systems, like record keeping, for instance. I mean, a lot of people used to have lots of shit kept on about them on paper, but then of course the second was working along and bombs fucking burned it all up, and that's possible. There are some of these places where the huge gigantic databases in them, it's possible they could get bombed if there was a war and all that data could be lost, but it'd be harder to lose it all than it would if it was a building on fire full of paper, So this information could be kept for longer periods of time, more secure, and let's face it, who doesn't want to track back where their ancestors came from, And if you unfortunately have to track your ancestors through an area in, say, London that had been bombed out, you're fucked. Your backtracking of your ancestors comes to a dead end, you know what I mean? The paper trail goes cold, So I don't think it's all bad. I think that there is obviously some useful benefits of it, and I think we'll learn more and more useful benefits of it in the future, as and when somebody smart enough comes along and finds another useful use for it, you know. That's not to say someone corrupt and evil isn't going to find other, you know, shitty fucking purposes for it. But then, you know, that's where the checks and balances come in. You know, that's the whole of life, man. It's all swings and roundabouts. You've got to just take your time, think it through, you know. Don't just hate it because it's new and you're scared of the new. Don't just hate it because somebody's come onto the internet and made a video saying, I think they could use this to, you know, capture anyone, even an innocent person, and make them look bad. Well, we can do that today. Fucking hell. The Republicans have been trying to do it with Obama for 5 years, for fuck's sake, you know, and unfortunately about 32% of Americans believe them, you know. Yeah, you know, he hasn't got an American birth certificate, you know. You know, that sort of thing, you know. And yeah, people will believe shit because they want to believe it. I'm yet to see how this thing could be used horrifically badly, you know what I mean, within society. There is a possibility for it, yes, I believe that and understand that. But since it is a new thing, we haven't regulated it yet. We haven't had the conversation and passed the legislation to control it properly. Once we go through that process, then I'm sure you will see that it isn't the horrific, you know, apocalyptic fucking database that a lot of people are trying to make it out as, you know. I think I'm finished now on the NSA and its giant capture machine of, you know, your life story, you know, the things you've done, you know, the things you've said, the things you've thought, perhaps. That'll be the next idea, you know what I mean? We'll have caps we have to wear at night so the police can find out what we're dreaming about. The dream police will be after you. Anyway, guys, soign you va. And rest easy. I don't think the world is as bad a place as a lot of people would like us to believe it is. Cheers.